Sandy.
Hi, it's Dave.
Hi, it's Kirk.
Welcome to the ADK Rock and Metal channel, and we're back doing discussion topics today. Will be created by the discussion generator. It's Kirk, your time to do the honours.
Yeah,
after you.
Kirk. I'm gonna let the ref play out.
It's a little more generated riff.
So it's Guitar Hero.
Go on in.
Yes! Oh man, we're talking about promoters again.
Yeah.
Fucking hell.
No, we're actually here. So this was actually your topic from a few weeks back. I know how you're looking at it. You're like, did I? So, because it's the word apathy. You used the word apathy. So what can bands, promoters and venues do to stave off the wave of apathy sweeping across the music scene? So you raised this question on our group chat. So would you like to elaborate?
Why did you ask this question? No, it's a good one.
Why did I bring this up?
Why did I bring this up?
I think you just went to a gig and you were just like, for fuck's sake.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah,
Kirk, you're right. It kind of follows on to what we've discussed before, and you may have seen the video on the channel where basically bands are gigging a lot and promoting and often finding they're playing to 10 people, and in that discussion we said it could be the same 10 people.
Yeah.
Which is not really going to grow your band. So, I as you rightly said, David, it probably came up when I came from a show where it was sort of poorly supported, and the question is, what can bands and promoters and venues do to increase people through the door? And it's a wide topic of discussion. I haven't really got the answers, but there's so many factors: ticket price, the type of band, the type of bill. Have you seen them before? Are they playing the same one next month at a free show?
So I think we can rule out ticket price because we're seeing gigs poorly attended that are free.
Yes.
So I think we can take that one out because I guess what's the easiest things. There's a lot of gigs coming up now. You're going to a few of them. I know you're doing On Your Life. We're doing Metal to the Masses.
Yeah.
Coming up in the next few weeks, so we've got that coming up as well. But with all the gigs that are going on, we've not all been to all of them. So what stopped us going to gigs? That's a good way to start. So what made us not go to a gig?
And where was it because of apathy? You've got to ask that.
It's not apathy because pre-pandemic certainly there wasn't many metal shows at Club 85 in Hitchin or the Red Line in Stevenage or the Green Room in Welwyn Garden City that I didn't go to. Where, in most cases there'd be at least one band that I knew and liked, and I'd be looking forward to seeing the other 2 or 3 that were on the bill. So that was my approach a few years ago. Now, for me, it's purely time. Yeah. It's a big chunk of your day, especially if we are going to be doing what we're doing as a channel, which is going to get there probably before doors.
Talk about it.
Either do some content, either help you set up, or in the cases of Metal to the Masses, judging, getting there early to see sound check and that kind of thing. Or if I've been to with friends who have had a show sort of perhaps a bit further afield, I've gone with them for loading and checking. So that's
it with Own Your Life.
Own Your Life and Black Skull Ritual and a few other times. So it's a big chunk of the time out of your day or your weekend to go. So that is it for me. Because I've got other things going on my life. I'm still involved in football. I've got my band as well, whereas pre-pandemic I wasn't quite so involved in my own band, so I had more time to do it. So again, you said you can write off ticket prices because a lot of shows are free. It may well be the cost of drinks at venues that we discussed earlier as well. 6 Bar, many other venues and many other organisations and businesses have had to pay more for their what's the term? Raw supplies.
Yeah.
Consumables. And they try not to pass it on to the customer, but that may have to be, a choice that they can't make. I mean, for me, I think it probably is time with an element of the financial side.
Okay.
But what can bands do and promoters do to sort of stabilise? For me, it's not apathy; it's other factors. But there is a certain amount of, I can't be bothered, even if it is free, because we haven't got that kind of sort of scene at the moment, and I don't know if that's still replicating across the country where people aren't perhaps getting together with their friends so often a gig as a social event, which is what it used to be a few years ago from my point of view. But I've got an answer to how you can stave off the apathy. There are factors that affect attendances at gigs that we've discussed on numerous occasions before.
Unless you want me to go next. So
Yes.
I'm going to play the devil's advocate. I don't think there's apathy sweeping across the music scene. The problems you've described have been around since time immemorial, or certainly in the industrial age, because you're always competing. Your 9-to-5 job. If you're raising a family, you've got children, so they're going to be there's going to be a lot of commitment to those, isn't there? Marriages, other interests outside of music. So I don't think that's unique pre or post pandemic. That people that have time, that's always been a problem. Price isn't responsible for apathy. If anything, that would create outrage. And but you could argue actually, if people were so bothered, why don't they start protesting and saying we need venues to be charging less? Turns out that they're giving these gigs for free. So this is a very good question you're asking, and it's very difficult to answer that. What can bands, promoters, and venues do? Is the issue that there are just too many gigs, that there's an abundance of choice? Is it the quality of the bands in the scene? I mean, I do like, especially the Hertfordshire scene, because there's a lot more extreme, like sludge and grind, but you don't get any progressive metal bands, you don't get any technical death metal bands, you don't get any deathcore bands. It does seem to group together in clusters in similar genres, and eventually that can just become homogenous, and you kind of just expect all bands, to be playing unmelodious noise with really aggressive masculine vocals and quite offensive music, to the trained musical ear, to the 99% of the general public. So that the extremity of the music scene might be the problem, why people are not attending it. Me and Andy will go to it because that's our type of music. I wouldn't be expecting anyone in my family I know to listen to this type of music, many people in my friendship groups. What can the bands do? We've already discussed that. I don't really want to labour the point. We know that there are so many different platforms now to promote your music. All of them are oversubscribed. All of them have millions of users, and you're just going to get trapped in the noise there anyway. Promoters and venues, that's where I'm expecting you to come in on this. I don't really know enough about the industry to give an answer when it comes to promoters. You certainly do, so I'll leave that to you. And venues are similar, aren't they? And again, you've got examples from both sides, Dave, as someone who's booked your own tours in the past. So you've been on the side of it as a musician. You've also been involved with it at the other side. So I think it's only right for me to hand over to you. What can promoters and venues do? Because I don't feel I'm qualified to answer that.
Okay. I'm probably not qualified either on this one, but I can try to kind of get to it. I'm going to share my reason why apathy and my thoughts around going to gigs.
Do you think there is apathy?
You do, don't you?
I do, personally.
Okay.
So it's probably the word apathy is probably not the right one for me. It's fatigue. So I actually, a lot of the times I don't go to gigs because I'm just like, I can't be asked. I'm tired.
That's what I was thinking.
And then in the back of my head, I'm like, tomorrow I've got to go to work. And all I'm like, if I go to this gig, I'm going to be fucked tomorrow and I ain't going to be able to do the work. And even though I don't drink, I'll still be like, I'm just so tired. And then the next thing goes in my head goes, I've seen these bands recently before. They'll play another gig at another day. I'll catch them on another one. And that's what goes through my head because every band, for instance, there's a good one coming up. We've got Before the Sirens and Lowdown playing the Red Lion next Friday.
End of April, in case anybody.
End of April, yeah, sorry. It was the end of the April show.
Red Lion Stevenage, yeah.
So they're playing this gig. It's not too far away from me, but I also know that I've got to get up early in the morning because I'm going to be working in Tottenham at 7 o'clock on Saturday. So am I going to go to the gig? No, because I know I'll catch them at another show. I know that Before the Sirens and Lowdown will play another gig, and I'll be like, it's fine, I'll catch them at some other one at another date because great bands, really enjoy them. But I also look at the venue and I'm like, it's not a great venue because you're going to end up stuck behind a pillar somewhere. You have to lean around to try and find it, in my opinion, unless you're right up there next to them. There's space for about 10 people to get close, and then the rest of them have to kind of fight around pillars. But
sorry to interrupt. Do you not feel, using that as an example, do you not feel a slight bit of guilt that you're not going to be there?
Yes.
Supporting your friends.
I do.
Who play in a band you actually really like. I mean, that's my view. I'm not going for because there's a gig clash. But I'd make an effort to go to this one.
So I do, in the sense
I do have a sense of guilt sometimes if I can't make a show for whatever reason, even if it's as like you described. I'm really not feeling it tonight, and I've got things on tomorrow.
But there's a reason. If this had been Club 85 that were playing on Friday, I'd have gone to it.
Oh really? Okay.
Reason being is I don't like the Red Lion as a venue. I think the sound's awful. It's muddy as fuck, and it's too small, and you can't watch the band comfortably. It gets too hot in that area, so you have to stand by the doors, and then you've got people trying to get past the band to get to the toilet. It's not a venue designed for live music. It just isn't.
I agree.
It's a pub where they move the pool table out the way so they can put the band on.
Yeah. True.
So I would much rather go and watch them but saying that, I didn't go and see them when they played the 6-6 bar as part of an all-day festival thing. And I was like, if it had been a 3-band, 4-band bill of an evening, I probably would have gone to that, but I didn't want to do the whole day thing, because I was just like, I can't be arsed with this. Too fast. And that's the problem, is the apathy part is actually more a case of the fatigue, spending the whole day, because the price of the ticket. Now, on that all day, I actually bought my tickets in advance and had paid for entry. So it wasn't the price of tickets, it's not the price of the beer.
That was a fundraiser one.
That was the fundraiser,
Yeah.
so I made sure I paid for my tickets, either way, even if I went or not. So I
was, I went to that one, and I was there for the first band at 2:30, and I unfortunately didn't see the last couple of bands, and I felt bad about that. But there was that element of fatigue, actually on the day, not prior to it, but actually I was gigged out and I had work. It was a Sunday, so.
And it's the chat. I mean,
and sometimes I push through and make that extra effort.
Yeah.
But sometimes, unfortunately, I can't and I don't, and I feel bad about that. But if you're using this as an example of what bands can do to stave off apathy, or in this case, make somebody attend the whole event, just shrink it down a bit. Start earlier and finish earlier, which is the original plan. I think was doors at 12, first band at 1. It got moved to 2:30, and therefore the final band. And I think the changeovers were increased as well, which dragged the day out a bit. I don't think you need half an hour changeovers. If you get your skates on, and it just made the final the final band were playing late, they were finishing late, whereas the original sort of itinerary set list, set times, it was going to be wrapped up by 9:30, which was doable on a Sunday. Do you know what I mean? And I was looking forward to that. And I was a little bit disappointed when it was all shuffled forward in the day. So that's that. Not staving off the apathy, but perhaps increasing numbers through the door. Just have a think about factors like, we love rock and metal. We sometimes want to be home with a cup of cocoa at 9:30, ready for work the next night. Well, I certainly do.
I love Cocoa Pops.
My little Cocos, yeah. Cocoa Pops and a cheeseburger, there you go.
Whatever your tipple is, yeah.
Can I just weigh in? Let's take the first one. What can bands do? First of all, let's go to the higher echelons. If it's a band and it could be their last tour, so I've been to see The Cure and Depeche Mode in the last 2 years, because at the back of my mind I'm thinking they're probably never going to play live again because they're at band stage. Same with 9 Inch Nails. If they announce a tour, I'll fucking pay £300 to go and watch that gig, because it might be the last time I ever see Trent Reznor performing with 9 Inch Nails. So that's the higher end of the spectrum. What I'm saying there is, what is unique about your product where people must attend? That's one example. With local bands, what is unique about your product? Oh, it's a gig on Halloween. That's a reason to go. There's a fancy dress. So once a year, if you can find an event...
So that's less about the band, though. That's more about the event and the date.
But what can they do to stave off the wave of apathy? Like when Scarlet Envy put on that wonderful show, and there were games and prizes, and it was a really good bill that you played on, Nomadic Rain.
Yeah.
Oh, what a great event. And they've been promoting it for months, and I knew I had that in my calendar. I didn't do the fancy dress. But a lot of effort went into it. Good turnout. But that's a one-off event that happens on an annual basis. What can bands do? What can you do to make your product different from all the other bands out there? And if you are a post-metal band from Baldock, what can you do differently? You're unsigned, you play really aggressive music that's quite slow in tempo. You're probably going to be having a nervous breakdown on stage because this music is quite traumatic. And you've got punters coming in from the other room and they're scared to go to the bar. But what can your band do in that scenario? I don't know what you can do. You cluster into scenes, that's what you do, and that's not happening, is it?
There isn't, and also, I mean, I guess if we talk about 3 of the bands that we've brought up already, so Low Down, Before the Sirens and Scarlet Envy, all have great musical catalogues. great performances live, really like these
Tight
bands
bands.
live, but because I've seen them so often, there's no necessity, apart from supporting your friends, there's no necessity for me to attend. And so I kind of have to balance that with what's going on in my life and go, can I take the hit so that if I'm feeling really crap or knackered throughout the day and I'm still going to go to this gig and I'm going to feel really shit tomorrow and I'm going to struggle at work, or I go, my work's got to take priority over this, and actually I'll catch them on the next one, because it's not like they're not going to play another gig, because I know all the bands are like, they're going to book gigs.
There's nothing, using those 3 bands as an example, there's nothing they can do that's going to change your approach to whether you go or not. It's purely down to you,
so
isn't
then
it?
what do they do to find new audiences? Because I'm an existing audience member, but you can't rely. No big band. I suppose Metallica could probably do it and turn up to a gig every week and still play it. And you can see that with bands like Metallica, who basically move around the new scene in the tribute bands, and they will always fill out because of the type they are. But if you're a big band, you can go and play a local area time and time again, and you will get a crowd. Real McCoys do it as a tribute band. They'll go out and do
Hometown shows, they call it.
Hometown shows.
Yeah.
But if, as an unknown, unsigned band, you can't just keep playing the local scene venues and hope that effectively all your friends are going to keep turning up from the other bands. Because that's how you meet most of these people. Your friends on your Facebook page suddenly get more and more after every gig, because you just become friends with each band that you've played with.
Yeah.
And so you're then posting to them. But how do you get out of that? So bands have got to do more. I want to talk about that. So bands just need to focus more out and potentially do less local shows and maybe spread them out so they become more of a selective thing. So you go, oh shit, I haven't seen him in 6 months. That's going to be fucking awesome. Yeah, catch up with them again. So then there's more urgency on you as a viewer to go, shit, we haven't caught them. It'd be really good to go and check out what they're doing now. I think at that point, promoters have got to work out how they get those bands in front of them. But maybe it's a case of, I think promoters need to be more selective. Bands.
Well, I've got a solution. Well, this is a minor solution. What can bands do differently? So let's say that a band are headlining in Bedford, and they've got friendship groups in Cambridgeshire and Hertfordshire and even North London. Straight away, why don't you invest in a minibus at a central point? Meet here, we'll take you to and from the gig. I know it's coming out of your pocket, but we're saying here bands have got to do something, okay? So there comes with a cost with that. The other one, you could accuse the people of being shallow. Why don't you put on a benefit night, whether that be for victims of the aerial bombardment in Gaza from the Israeli Defense Force? I know that's a political angle. You could get accused of just going with whatever the fashionable cause is at the moment.
I would say that.
You could,
if I saw that, I'd be like, ooh, you're just doing that because...
Yeah, true, but think smart. If you believe in that, then I don't know if you'd be allowed. Promoters might not want a political angle to it, but you've got to think about that. If you're not just doing the gig, if it's not just about you performing and enjoying it, why don't you raise some money for cancer awareness? You can't do that every gig. So try and look at it from that angle. But yeah, just things like putting on a minibus so people can go there and have a drink, enjoy, and then they can get on the lift back. Or you could even say it's only a £5 on the minibus. Get the people to even pay for that. But that never happens.
Well, here's something I would say for bands. There are bands out there that have hired venues because it's their album launch show, etc. And they've had a good turnout because they've spent a long time promoting that show, pushing that show to make sure they get a good crowd, because they're having to pay for it out of their pocket.
Yeah.
As soon as it's the promoter that has to pay out their pocket to promote it, they don't push it as hard.
Yeah,
because they see it as the promoter's job. It is the promoter's job to push it, but obviously you need to be a successful band as far as you've got people interested in you to do it. So the bands have got to do more to get people to know about them, and rather than focusing it on nationwide, focus on your local area. How do you get people that are into rock and metal within your local area focused on it? Promoters have to then work out how they can get the brand out there, and promoters have got to take responsibility for promoting the gig, but what they also have to do is think about the bands they booked, and what's the point in booking a band for a show who 2 weeks prior played a gig at the same venue? They've already just played there. You're not going to get people coming out to see them again.
Yeah,
and we know
right.
that of a local example that happened recently. So promoters need to be, there was that old process where you couldn't play a gig 4 weeks either side of that day in that local area.
Even I've come across that, yeah.
And I agree with that. I'd be like, if we booked a band to do an ADK Presents show, and and we found out 3 weeks before the gig that they've also now gone and booked another gig, and they're pushing that either side, I'd be like, right, you're off the bill then.
Would as well.
Oh, fucking would. I'd be like, no, you said that you wouldn't take on any gig and promote it. You've gone and booked, we've booked you in Bedfordshire, and you've gone and booked a gig at the Luton Castle. You're out. I'm putting another band on in your slot. Because you wouldn't agree to focus on that. How am I meant to promote you where now anyone that, if you're based in Luton, your people are now going to go to that gig?
So this is fueling this, and what you mentioned earlier. If the Luton Castle gig is free, which I think many of them are, you're going to see Band A there and not pay £10 for the show 3 weeks later at another venue nearby. Yeah,
exactly.
So do you know?
There's an apathy there. So I want to do the venues as the last one from my point of view.
Yeah.
So from a venues point of view, now venues obviously, a lot of venues don't even open some nights of the week because they just can't justify the cost. So when they do put bands on, they've got to, again, think about the types of bands they're putting on. Are they the right sort of bands for the bill? Now, if that's the case, they'll put on lots of tribute bands because they know that they come through the door. We just saw that with, there was an R&B collective that played at the Hitchin Club 85, packed the place out.
Good.
So there's that question mark from the promoters and runners of obviously Club 85. It's like, why put on metal gigs when metal are our worst performing shows? We get the lowest crowds for those, but when we put on things like the Oasis tribute bands and stuff, we sell those out night after night. So from a business, purely on a business, forget the artistic element, from a business point of view, it makes sense for them to do that. But venues have probably got to work better with working together with other venues to make sure that the bands aren't, that you're not getting massive crossovers, because I have seen it far too often with bands playing in the same kind of locations, not too far apart, drivable, 20-minute drive, and they haven't got an audience base, so they're going to be splitting that. Any audience they have got is going to be split. So venues got to be better at that. But I mean, we're losing so many venues. They've got to be trying to think. I think from a band point of view for the music scene, what could the venues be doing more about building a scene in the sense of, should they open up their venues to just a metal hangout night, club night sort of thing, where it's like a bar type thing where you just hang out? And they have the music playing. They play local bands' music on the PA system as well as some of the big stuff. And it's just like free entry on the door, bar stuff on that sort of thing. We just got someone putting in the DJ book thing up the top there.
Well, they do that at 6-6.
6-6 do that.
Yeah.
And they do a bit of a hangout. But if a bigger venue that has a bigger stage as well, sort of had those sort of things once a month, big like metal night hangout sort of thing, and all the metalers just hang out from there, from the bands that weren't playing. You could do a midweek one, doesn't have to go on till too late. You kind of kick it off from 7 till 10 sort of thing. Singles night at the Club 85. But I think venues have got to think outside the box about how do they build something into the scene, because at the moment it's all reliant on the promoters and the bands to bring an audience to the venue, but because their venues don't have a built-in audience. And bands are still trying to gig as though there's a built-in audience, and they're expecting there to be a built-in audience for them to come. So if I was to go and play the Carlisle in Hastings, we've got no audience there. We'd take the gig, but we would know that we're going to bring in no one. We could promote it, we could post it on Hastings page.
You'd expect to be the Barman of Bells.
Unless you do what Kirk's idea is, which I think is a really good one, and I've sort of jumped on this as well with my friends in Own Your Life. They had, I don't know what vehicle it was, but they had a massive, great minibus van thing, and they asked me if I wanted to jump in, and I paid towards the cost of it. I went to the London show, the sort of hardcore show in London they did. It's fantastic. But if you was to, let's use that example, going down to the Carlisle in Hastings, if you was to do that, you'd bring a crowd, a few people, wouldn't you? But as for the scene watching you play there, you haven't got one, because it's on the south coast of England, 2 hours away.
Yeah, and we're seeing that with bands that go down to these areas. And even if the promoters then constantly book on the local band, but what I find with the local band is the local bands don't always bring anyone anyway, because they've been playing so many gigs locally anyway.
So
they're not actually...
The local Hastings band who could be on the bill
are the crowd.
Are the ones you're going to have a following you think would come along. So you've travelled that way down.
And you play there so often that they've not actually got the crowd, which means you're now playing and they're expecting you as the touring band. Yeah. People are going to come out for the touring band, and so you then end up having a bill where it's just the bands watching each other. Because I mean, look,
That's famous
one
in the
last
metal
thing for
hardcore
this,
scene.
because a good example of this, so Kane have obviously put out this tour for October, plenty of time ahead.
Yep.
And so you think Kane have been on the scene for over 10 years. They've been pushing this.
So you invited me to like the page.
So we've got that. They haven't even just gone and picked 4 bands to tour the whole lot. They've literally gone at every single show. They've picked 3 support bands.
Okay.
So you've actually got 12 dates or something like that he's put. And he's got 3 support bands on every single day, all completely different. So that's a lot of bands involved in this tour. And then after a couple of weeks of this going live, it was like, ticket sales, 3 of this venue, none at this venue, 2 at this venue. You kind of go, and I actually messaged him because we're on one of the bills, we're playing the Melbourne, Cambridge, and my answer to him was, we haven't pushed it that much right now because it's in October, but we also need to build our online following because all we're going to be pushing it to is other local bands right now. So we need to, we're doing work now to build our online presence so people know about the band, so that when we do push it, which will be 3 months out from October, we're pushing it to the right people.
Yeah.
And so there's no point me doing that right now. But when we're also looking at another show, we were looking at the 6-6 bar. I was like, right, well, if we were to do the 6-6 bar, we can't do it within 3 months of that gig because it's not fair to Kane. If we're playing in October, then the earliest or the latest we could do it is either June or July in the 6-6 at the very latest if we did early July. But after that, we wouldn't do the August one because it's not fair. We'd be doing August, September, then playing again in Cambridge, and that's not right. But we could use the earlier one on that bill in 6-6 to help us, as we've never played Cambridge, to try to see if there's any interest in it and then push the Melbourne one.
Yeah.
So there's a few things we could do, but we have to be sensible about how we do it. But
I've just thought, right, as a creative solution, look at it from I guess this is the promoter. So we go back to what's unique about this gig that happens every 2 months where you think you can get people through the door. Imagine if you had a setup, 1, you've got the minibus, okay, or even 2, and there's some of that cost. Those that are attending will be expected to pay £2, for example, to get the minibus there and back. 2, so there's 4 bands on this bill. The first band always must be a debut band to give new blood a chance, and there's a good chance they will bring the family. They might even be the first ever gig. One of those bands on the venue must do a fundraiser. You've got to think creatively, so you have a structure to it. So each artist on that is doing something unique. The other one are raising awareness, or they might they might have something to promote. There might be a venue on. There might be even like vinyl sales. A fair on before the gig. You've got to think about things like that. If you've got 4 bands, each one of them needs to stand out and give a reason for people who don't go to music gigs as much as they would like to do that, and transport, raising awareness for a good cause, giving the new blood a chance, so the event becomes known as, wow, we've just been we've been rehearsing for 2 months, we're 17 years old, what's your aim? We just want to play this show as the new blood in the future. If you would come up with 4 unique reasons, just try and think outside the box. But it's
changing things to an event versus a gig.
Yeah.
I think is the key thing.
Why does it need to be a gig?
Why do I have to? How do you make it so that you go, I have to go to that gig?
Yeah.
What makes you do that? And then obviously the sheer number of gigs that people can be telling you about can always be a problem. But
that's it. Turn it into an event.
Yeah. That's a good point. Any final points before we wrap this one up? I think I'm done. I think I'm going to leave this open to the comment books.
Again, another wide-reaching subject that
didn't answer.
We're always talking about basically, aren't we?
Because it's such a hot topic and it's such a big one, we're just approaching it the same topic in a different way each time. But,
sorry.
But it is. We do. We just kind of angle it. It's you started this one because you brought this topic
so I'm apologising. Yeah.
Anyway, if you enjoyed our video today, please do like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you on the video sometime very soon. Take care.